Names are one of the most important aspects of a compelling character. Most names in Genshin Impact share important etymologies that give subtle hints to their personality and profile. But none of these naming conventions fascinate the audience more than the Archon naming conventions. Upon inspecting the names of Barbatos, Morax, Baal, and Decarabia, it is observed that each of their names come from the Lesser Key of Solomon, specifically the 72 demons of the Ars Goetia. The Ars Goetia is one of 5 books in the Lesser Key of Solomon, or the Lemegeton Clavicula Salomonis, or the Lemegeton. It is an anonymous grimoire compiled in the 17th century about demons and the various hierarchies of hell. Today, we'll be exploring the naming themes of the 7 Archons, as well as theorize about what future names the God of Wisdom, Justice, War, and have based on the information we can find from the Ars Goetia. Before I begin, I would just like to say sorry if my voice sounds a little hoarse. I just got back from a fever after the second shot of my vaccine, but I was too itchy not to begin my research on Genshin Impact. I would also like to preface that this video is less of in-game lore and more of a correlation between real-life fiction and potential themes, similar to my Albedo video. If you enjoy this kind of content, please feel free to join me on my Discord and Twitch, where I usually just chat and chill about future theories and ideas I have for Genshin analysis. I also have a Ko-fi if you want to support me there. On a side note, I pray to God that the people in my household don't find my notes and search history, because I live in a Christian family, so if they hear me chanting, I might actually get exorcised. Anyways, if I don't come back in 2 days, I assume I've been dragged into the pits of hell. But without further ado, let's study the names of the 7 current Archons and the Ars Goetia. According to Wikipedia, the demons of the Ars Goetia are separated into 7 classifications: the kings, dukes, earls, princes, marquises, knights, and presidents. Out of the current 7 Archons, we have 3 names that come from one of each classification with a slight overlap. This will be important when considering the potential names of the other 7. Let's begin with the first name in the game from the Ars Goetia: Barbatos. Barbatos is the 8th demon of the Ars Goetia. He is a Duke and Earl of Hell, ruling 30 legions of demons with 4 kings as his companions. He is known to lead men to hidden treasures that have been enchanted by magicians, and his name derives from the Latin word barbatus, which means bearded old man philosopher. He pacifies fiends and friends, has a connection with prophesizing the past and future, and gives the voices of the animals understanding. We can make several guesses to the connections Barbatos has to Venti in-game. One is that Venti has 2 animal companions in the form of Andres and Devalin. He also uses the popular motif of letting the wind lead you, as seen in his dialogue and the name of the quest where you first meet Venti. In the Vayuda turquoise gemstone, a quote states the following: "Someday, they will blow towards a brighter future, taking on the same motif as the wind being a guide." Venti is also capable of disrupting Mona's prophecy on him with his winds, which is particularly interesting. As seen in the picture, one can relate how Barbatos would seem like a bardic figure, and in all technicality, Venti is a braided old philosopher who usually has a lot of things to say, seeing as he does have a way with words. The next character is Morax. Morax, or Forai, Marax, and Farax, is a great earl and president of Hell. He teaches astronomy and other sciences, as well as have familiars that know the virtues of all herbs and precious stones. He is depicted as a man with the head of a bull, but he is capable of taking the shape of a woman dressed in the style of traditional ancient Egyptian nobility. Zhongli is a man of great wisdom, and his intelligence on the history of precious stones and herbs are not new to the game. He has provided insight on various plant life and minerals in Liyue to the traveler during the quests, and even gives Zhao and the traveler medicine if they need it. Zhongli also technically has familiars in the form of the Adepti, who too has a correlation with plant life and stones. Tea is one of Madame Ping's offers to the traveler, Ganyu is a vegetarian who enjoys Qingxin, and Mount Aokang is littered with minerals, ambers, and flora. Another interesting note found here is that Morax is capable of taking the shape of a woman. In the book Rex Incognito, Volume 1 and 2, it is a rumor amongst Liyuan citizens that the Geo Archon once took a form of a woman dressed in long, slender black gown with eyes shining bright like amber in the light of the crescent moon hanging in Liyua's sky. Last but not least is Baal. Baal or Baal is known as the king of hell, the first of the 72 demons who sits at the head of the infernal powers. He is the first king of hell and was known to be a Canaanite deity of agriculture and fertility. Baal personifies weather, rain, wind, lightning, seasons, war, sailors, science, and love. Baal was also given the power of invisibility and appeared in the form of 3 heads, a cat, a toad, and a man. All of the heads are fastened onto a set of spider legs. The Raiden Shogun is a figurehead that exuberates excellency, with the quote from the Varada Amethyst showing that she deems that since her body is the noblest and most eminent of all in the world, it should have absolute control. While though the name seems unfitting for a character that was not amongst the original 7 deities, it should be believed that her iron rule and grip on Inazuma is enough for her to deserve the name of the King of Hell. The Raiden Shogun's land exemplifies tumultuous tempests and harsh winds, and though Inazuma is not completely invisible, it could be said that as a closed-off nation, it is invisible to the rest of the world. According to some authors, Baal was the first prince of hell after being dethroned by the devil. In the story of Genshin Impact, it is abundantly clear that a revolution is beginning to destroy the Vision Hunt Decree and the Shogun's unwavering rule on Inazuma. Each of the 3 current Archons has similar motifs borrowed from their respective devils. So, when put into consideration, hypothesizing future names based on pre-existing themes becomes somewhat plausible. Let's begin with the inconsistencies that we can observe. As I have stated before, there are 7 additional titles that the 72 demons split amongst themselves with minimal forms of overlap. The kings, dukes, earls, princes, marquises, knights, and presidents. The only overlap is that the earl seems to be a title that is also shared amongst the other classifications. For example, Morax is a president and a great earl, and Barbatos is an earl and a duke. The classification of earl in this case becomes that they have no overlap and are simply an earl. It is easier to consider that maybe each of the other 4 names will come from the other 4 classifications, so I'll be using that as hypothesis. Another is that while the original 72 demons have a hierarchy system, Genshin Impact's Archons don't follow the tradition. Baal is first despite Raiden not being amongst the 7 original. Barbatos has a higher standing than Morax despite Zhongli having more presidents in Liyue, and Morax is the lowest despite being the oldest out of the 2. So, with those considerations, let's begin. The God of Wisdom. Stolas is the name of one of the princes of Hell. He is seen as the owl demon and originated in many places, namely, the discovery of witchcraft, the Book of Spirits, Pseudonomonacaria Daemonum, and the Dictionnaire Infernal. He is mainly described to be a human owl or raven with very long legs. Stolas is known for his high knowledge in very poisonous plants and very precious stones. And it is because of this that Stolas is a very important figure in magical rituals and summoning roots. Stolas has 2 forms, with his second form being a white-winged human with dark hair and very bright blue eyes. Stolas is known for his extensive knowledge in astronomy, and one of the reasons he is summoned is that he educates the secrets of astronomy onto any mortal who calls for him in exchange for their soul. Sumeru is known as the Dendro region of Teyvat, which would correlate with the namesake also referring to plants and minerals being a motif. The academia is also known as the leading institute in arcane arts in the entirety of Teyvat. The sages of Sumeru drive themselves into hysteric and abandon all that is worldly in their pursuit of esoteric wisdom, therefore consequently selling their souls in pursuit of uninhibited erudition. For the God of Wisdom, An owl is often seen as the symbol of paranormal wisdom, regal silence, endurance, and intelligence. Most media use owls to show sagehood and unprecedented knowledge capable of usurping mortal standards. The god of justice lives for the spectacle of the courtroom. A peek into the Varunda Lazarite shows a haughty god who uses the law as the true and sole dictator of judgment. Fontaine is a land inspired by French culture, both from its namesake and the various NPC design hints that have been sprinkled in the game. Therefore, I believe that the classification their namesake will be from is a Marquis of the Ars Goetia. A Marquis is a nobleman of high hereditary rank in various European peerages. And though the status is widespread and has equivalences in other cultures, the translation in the Ars Goetia specifically uses the French counterpart. Forneus is known as the 30th spirit listed in the Ars Goetia. He teaches rhetoric, which is a persuasive or effective means of writing and speaking that often covers figures of speech. He bestows good reputation to those deserving and makes men loved by friends and foes. He grants knowledge of various arts and sciences to those who invoke his name, and can also manipulate one's hatred into something akin to friendship or love. Forneus is a devil of persuasion, and those who master his craft will be able to convince even the most stubborn. Forneus is also depicted as a mighty sea monster, and before he fell from the ranks of angels, his duty was to help channel positive energy to ensure that justice and balance were upheld, particularly for the weak, or those who have been victimized unnecessarily. Though he is a demon, he seeks to help those who are faced with injustices. When considered in the themes of Fontaine, we know that the spectacle is a word Tainsleif used to describe the Fontaine tale, but also that the god of justice will not make an enemy of the divine. According to Francis, an NPC from Fontaine, the nation is known for its beauty and elegance, and they even dress quite exaggeratedly. This is evident in Linné and Lynette's designs and introduction, where they both appear to be stars of a show. The use of vivacious and extravagance works well with the charismatic invocations of Forneus, which would relate the devil's use of rhetorics and persuasive tendencies to solve conflicts. The concept of justice is also quite strong with this devil, despite being an evil entity. Balance is another stricture that Forneus follows, even through his devilhood, so the god of justice, following the namesake, would not be too far-fetched. Fontaine is also a hibernation, which would allow for Forneus' form as a sea monster to revel through. The city of Natlan is a nation of war. Now, Murata's name here is actually quite fascinating. I believe, however, that Murata, similar to Rex Lapis and Raiden, is the national colloquial name for them. Hopefully, that is the case. Because if the Pyro Archon doesn't follow the same naming conventions as the other gods without a good narrative reason, it would be grounds for inconsistency, which strips the importance of the name from the other gods as well. But I believe that the god of wars does have an Ars Goetia counterpart. Furkas is a knight of hell, and a ruler of 20 legions of demons. He is depicted as a strong old man with white hair who rides a horse while holding a sharp weapon. He teaches the practices of rhetoric, chiromancy, philosophy, astronomy, and pyromancy. There isn't actually much to go off on, and after reading the other devils of the Ars Goetia, this almost had me quite uncertain. Natlan is the least known nation in the entirety of Genshin's lore, and even less is known about the Pyro Archon. Furkas is known as a warmongering devil, and being a knight, it would allow for the Pyro Archon's gnosis to be the knight. Furkas is also capable of pyromancy. A fascinating note that I want to point out, though, is the use of the word chiromancy. Chiromancy is a supposed way of prediction that uses a person's palm to read the future. It's palm reading. In the Agnidas Agate, it makes several hints to burn the cinders for a dream, a pilgrimage for a wish, and a battle to earn a name. If the intention yet remains, then the truth is achieved. The last deity on our list is the ruler of the Zapolony Palace herself, the Tsaritsa. The Tsaritsa is one of the main antagonists of Genshin Impact, who bear an overarching presence in the entire story. The Fatui Harbingers are a part of the key players in Genshin's endgame, considering that each of them harbor a significant role as the story progresses. The tale of the Gnosis is still a mystery to us today as players, and what true motivations the Tsaritsa has of them, so I believe that the name to give her must be befitting of her excellence and dignification. Raum is the 40th spirit of the Ars Goetia, and Great Earl of Hell. He is known to personify love, fortune-telling, and deceit. Raum is known for holding disdain for the other demon lords, considering them too fearful and conscious of death. He intends to bring salvation to all, and he plans to do this through pain. Pain to him is what makes humanity human. Raum lost faith in the truths, believing that the current existences of the world is insufficient for salvation. He is a great politician and a leader, able to convince other demons to join his side. Raum steals treasures out of the king's homes, carrying them where he wishes, and destroys cities and dignities of men. People seek Raum's wisdom to find their personal strength when the odds are against them. The Tsaritsa once held love for her people, but now such love is encased in eternal ice. Her goal from the beginning is evident: burn the old world away. The Tsaritsa is a god of unparalleled control over her subordinates, as seen by how loyal the Fatui Harbingers have become. We know that the Tsaritsa is capable of convincing loyalty from her subordinates. From the Pale Flame artifact, while it is Piero that convinced the other Harbingers to join them, it was the Tsaritsa's goal of burning the old world that interested the Lady of the Stainless Bloom, and the Tsaritsa's understanding of the Jester's pain for the sins of the world. Tartaglia is a man who wholeheartedly believes that the Tsaritsa, though using force, dreams of a world of peace. Therefore, it would align with Raum's ideals that salvation is brought through pain, because pain is an equalizer amongst the human race. The Tsaritsa is also known for stealing treasure from kings and destroying dignities. We have to understand that the morals and actions of the Fatui Harbingers inherently reflect a part of the Tsaritsa's rule, as it is a psychological phenomenon that subordinates take their master's personality as a consequence of subjugation and authority. Raum's wisdom is also given to those that do not have personal strength. From the Pale Flame artifact set, we know that the 5 of the Fatui Harbingers were recruited at times of anguish and hatred. Each story dictates a broken individual who was saved by the grace of the Tsaritsa, promising them that should they join her, their wishes will be realized, and their problems will be burnt away like the old world. The Ars Goetia provides a form of irony to the Archons. Somehow, it humanizes the divine when one is supposed to worship them unconditionally. There's humor at some point that all 7 of them will eventually be named after a god, even though they are the names of actual devils. But that's just all of the theory I have to offer today. 7 names for 7 devils in the Christian Bible. Isn't that just...
Paimon is the name of one of the kings of hell, the most loyal of kings to Lucifer. He speaks in a great voice and answers all questions asked clearly of him. If Paimon is sighted alone, he requires a sacrifice. Paimon is depicted as a man with a feminine visage, wearing a crown and riding a dromedary. Paimon reveals all the mysteries of the earth, wind, and water, the psychic and the physical, everything and nothing at once. He binds men to the conjurer's will. Paimon is full of energy. Bright lights and loud noises tend to eat his curiosity, and he is quite a colorful and friendly entity. Paimon speaks in an unnaturally loud voice. Paimon is the most loyal to Lucifer.